Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On the Pod, the football experience. I just screwed that one up. It's not our usual intro. It's the football experience brought to you by On the Pod. But hey, a little bit of comic relief to kick things off. Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah, well, it is a good start. Hopefully things will look. We've set the bar low. Hopefully things will get better as we continue. Look, there wasn't really that many that big games. Like most of the results sort of went the way we expected to happen. Um, there wasn't really any surprises either. Maybe surprises in terms of scoreline for the Liverpool game. Don't think anyone would have expected that. We will get into that one. I did want to kick things off with Crystal Palace Man City because I was actually out with the missus doing a little bit of window shopping, or just following her around while she was looking at clothes. And I was and obviously being the guy that I am, or taking that responsibility of being the masculine person in the relationship. I'm gonna be on my phone checking the football results. um,
Wait, literally kidding. We know who wears the pants in that relationship.
yeah, look, our audience doesn't know, so yeah, let's just keep it. Let's just keep it the way that I've presented it. Uh, I was checking the football results, and I was shocked that, like, I think it was relatively early that Chelsea got like a red card. I think in the
Yeah.
first half, if I'm not mistaken, and then also Crystal Palace went into halftime 2-0 up. Liverpool were just banging in goal after goal. They went into halftime 5-0 up. But I'll start off with the Crystal Palace Man City game because I actually predicted, and I've been saying this for weeks. I've been saying that the Crystal Palace are a bogey team for these top four or top six clubs. And they've been a bogey team, especially for Man City over the past couple of seasons. Like last season, for instance, they took Man City only took 1 point away from six, and when they went 2-0 up, I'm just thinking it's just the same story all over again. Crystal Palace seem to have Man City's number. They seem to be that bogey team for them. And then City managed to turn it around in the second half with an Erling Haaland hat trick, and the third goal especially was absolutely like gorgeous to watch. Like the way that he uses his positioning and his body to fight off. I believe it was Ward. Just sends him to the ground as well. Um, like it. I remember at the start of the season or the end of last season, we were talking about Haaland, and like he's not gonna suddenly get City to win like all 38 games and get them like 120 points, but he'll be there in those certain games to get them over the line. And this is a game where probably should have lost, could have lost, or at least drawn. Being 2-0 down, but having Haaland into the team, someone who can bang in 3 goals for you, manages to get all 3 points for you instead of one or possibly none. So I just want to get your thoughts on his performance specifically, or even just the City performance overall, or the game overall.
Well, it's a really astute point you make in terms of what's different this season to last season. And obviously, that main man up front is very different. Just having one, really. They haven't really had one since Aguero. And we know how good they were when they did have Aguero up front. So they got a different type, but they got someone to lead the line, sort of in that same way, in the same mold as a out and out striker. So yeah, a hat trick for him obviously proves that he is going to be mightily helpful in games like this. Like you say, a bogey team, a physical team, but a team where City absolutely expect to and did in the game control all of the game. I mean, Palace's 2 goals came from set pieces, sloppy defending of set pieces, really, from City, and they've dug themselves a hole. But I mean, you just knew as soon as Bernardo Silva scored the goal, it's just like they're at least going to draw this game. And then once they got another one quickly, it's just like, well, you can't keep this team out. They're just scary. They're just 2-0. They've been down 2-0 4 times in the last 6 games now. And I guess you can sort of point to that in saying, well, Haaland definitely helps, there's no doubt. And he helped in this particular test, as you say. But also, there was 2 games late last season where they were also 2-0 down. And one they came back to win and one they came back to draw, much like this season. So obviously you can point to their slow starts, but you can also point to their character. And their character's been the same as it was last season. They're gonna, if they dig themselves a hole like this, they're gonna get themselves out of it. It's funny, I didn't realize about that stat until it was pointed out on the weekend. But obviously the big stat was I think Liverpool had conceded first in their last 7 games or something before the weekend as well. So it was interesting that they were both sort of doing similar things at the same time. But the difference is when City do it, you just trust that City are going to get the goals back. When Liverpool go back, you think that they can, obviously, because they're a really good team. But I don't expect it in the same way as when I'm watching Man City, because Man City just have so much control and dominance on the game that you think if you just keep pressing that point home, then the wall's going to crack and the dam's going to burst and City are going to get their goals, and they've done it. What? Well, it's 2 draws, 2 wins from being 2-0 down in 4 games. And the 2 wins of just like, as soon as that crack opened, the flood just came through when you think of Villa and you think of the weekend again. But yeah, like I say, a really astute point on the Haaland one, because when you have that dominance and you have that territory, now they've got a target in the box. You think of that. I think it was the equalising goal where Phil Foden, I don't think he even gets his head up. He just knows if I put this in a good area, that guy's going to be there. And true to his form and true to the billing that he has, he was there. And he looks scary. And I know you said that he's going to be in there in these moments. Well, he is, but he's just there the whole season, and I just think he's going to. If he stays fit all season, there's a good chance he could score a lot of goals, be pushing that 30 goal mark, and to add that to a team that already went into the mid 90 points last season and got to a Champions League semi-final, should have been in the final. Just I don't know, it's scary. The City team, I don't know how they can be stopped. And if you can't, if teams can't beat them when they're 2-0 up, I mean, what chance do you really have?
So he already has 6 goals after 4 games, doesn't he? So he's already the leading goal scorer. Yeah, I can see him getting 30 goals if he stays fit, and considering that they are pretty much the same team as last season plus Haaland. Even if like an injury does occur to him, they know exactly how to play without a striker as well. So it's not like for instance, like a Bayern. What was it, 2 seasons ago when they lost Lewandowski? They weren't out of sorts, but like they didn't have that talisman up front, and they did look weaker. And they didn't, and they managed to get knocked out by PSG as well in the Champions League. And I don't think that that's going to happen to City, because they have an experience of pretty much 2.5 seasons, or 2 seasons, because Aguero was injured for most of that one where they made the final, and they were already starting to experiment playing without a striker in that season as well. So they already have that. They have quite a lot of experience in playing without a striker. So yeah, what are we going to do about what are we going to do about City? That's the league.
Hey, you're sitting up top and you're looking down on City. I don't know what you're so worried about.
Well, we haven't.
But I think
We haven't faced any top 6 team. We are going to face the top 6 team. Look, we'll count United as a top 6 team, even though they haven't got off to the greatest start. But we're going to face our first tough opposition this weekend coming. But yeah, that's why I'm not 100%, flying full of confidence. But I'm confident at the moment. But I want to see us be tested. But
yeah, of course. And just on the game as well, if you look at it from like a Crystal Palace perspective, I know you missed the first half, but it's 2 set pieces. It's quite fortunate that they're 2-0 up.
I know one of
Because
them was an own goal.
City have pretty much all control in the game, but they're sloppy in defending their set pieces and they're 2-0. So really, Palace have just been given this absolute gift. And I thought they probably made a mistake in terms of, and it's easy to say this after the game, but in terms of how they can approach the game after getting 2-0 up, I thought they probably should have taken it at City a little bit more. That's easy to say now, but I mean, to sit back against this City team, I trust. If you were to do this to a Liverpool, even an Arsenal maybe, although Arsenal I think are getting better in terms of how they can break this down, so I'll be interested to see. But if you did it to any other team but City, I think your chances of it working are very good. But when you do it to City, they're just so good at breaking down deep teams, especially with the weapon that is Haaland now in the box to take advantage of all this territory and all these great positions you can get into from crossing. So I just thought probably like towards the end of the first half and even second half, I just thought Palace should have been a bit more adventurous, made the game. I'm not saying the whole second half make it vertical and make it played in open spaces, but just pick your moments. And when you have a chance to sort of make it that type of game, go and try and make it that type of game and try and get the third goal, because as we've seen now, 2 goals against City isn't enough. You just got to keep playing. And the relentless nature of this team is really frightening. And like you say, they'll keep that even if they sustain an injury to Haaland. The only flip side of that could be interesting is if they get an injury to Haaland after they've been playing together for a while. And we go back to it, but the interesting thing is we've got a World Cup in the middle of this season. So if he sustains an injury before that, then he has all that World Cup time to heal. If he sustains an injury after that, maybe it's a bit interesting, but maybe in that time off between the World Cup, they're not in the rhythm of playing with Haaland anyway. Because what I was going to say is if he sustains an injury after 20 games of playing together, then these players, it will take time to adjust to say, oh, we don't have him in the box anymore. We've got to go back to the way we were playing before. So that would be interesting. But the World Cup throws a spanner in the works, even in terms of him getting an injury at any time in the season. So he's, like you say, he's not pivotal to City winning it, but it'll be interesting to see as the season develops how important he is to everything that they do.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he's also not going to the World Cup as well, so he has that time to, I guess, if he has any sort of niggling injuries, he can sort of get on top of that, fix up anything that needs to be fixed up, and yeah, he can actually have a month off to get his body right if there is anything wrong. Because he did have a long sustained injury last season, so he's still. I think I heard him say that he's still not 100%. So he's already banged in 6 and he's not 100%. Jeez. I saw a post. I'm not sure if it's true. I can't remember what page posted it, but apparently a bunch of Premier League managers are actually in discussions in how to best stop Haaland. They're actually brainstorming the best solutions to how to stop him.
But, you know what this feels like?
What?
This feels like the Golden State Warriors in 2016 adding Kevin Durant to the mix.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's over. It's just this team is overpowering. How do you stop them now? At least before it's hey, we can sit in a low block. Maybe they won't score today. Now it's they've got one of the best strikers in the world. How the hell do we stop them?
You know that Simpsons episode where they have that bowling team and then what's it called, Mr. Burns joins the bowling team, and then for the final, Mo takes a crowbar to his knee, and it actually knocks him back into place. Like they do something like that, and like Haaland's already injured, and then that knocks him back into place.
Oh man,
That's the only way. It's the only way you can stop it.
I don't know. We'll see. It's a long season, so let's see. But early signs are very worrying for the rest of the league.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess we should roll on into let's say title rivals, even though they haven't gone off to the best start with Liverpool. They finally have how would you say it? They finally started
A win.
Yeah,
we finally have a win.
Yeah, true. I was going to say they finally banging in the goals like they used to, but 9 goals without Salah getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, great. No, great. He can save him for another day when we need him. Fantastic.
Yeah, but even so, I think it's a result that no one expected. Even though Bournemouth have, I think we were saying like they shipped 4 goals in the last 2 games, and now they've shipped 14 apparently or something like that. So, relegation.
Bournemouth are
guaranteed.
Yeah, Bournemouth aren't very good. I don't know if guaranteed. Like we say, it's a long season, and Scott Parker had something interesting to say in the build-up. How he said, "Man City and Liverpool, these teams that we're playing, and Arsenal, they're not in our league. Like they are, but they're not. Our league is from 7 and below." So I thought that was a good way to look at it. So that's the way they'll approach it. But I mean,
it doesn't help the goal difference.
I guess that goes into that point I made about Arteta last week and that all or nothing. Like if he's saying things like that, the team's never going to believe that they can beat Man City, Liverpool, or Arsenal. So you know that they're going to get beaten 9-0. Like you say, we're not expecting that much. But yeah, Bournemouth will not be judged on these games. But what we've seen from them against the big teams is not very good, especially if you contrast it to, say, a Nottingham Forest that we saw on Sunday against Spurs. That was far more positive signs from them. So, yeah, but 9 goals in this game, what does it mean? Maybe a bit of confidence, or I don't know. Is it actually a bad thing, and it regresses us because we think we're out of this slump that we've had? Hopefully not. Hopefully it's a kickstart. It was interesting because Liverpool approached the game and they were pretty much doubled down on we're going to attack and we're going to try and score goals, but we're going to leave spaces. The good news is Bournemouth aren't very good at all, so they couldn't exploit any of those spaces because they couldn't defend properly at all. And we absolutely filled our boots with goals because they gave us the opportunity to do that, and we took full advantage of it. But like I said, all it means is 3 points. Unless they get rolling here, unless the goals start flowing. But I think it still comes down to how well Van Dijk, Alisson, even Trent to a certain degree, how well they can defend. In terms of whether we'll have success in trophies or whatnot this season. One thing that was interesting was Henderson sort of had a new position. He was still central midfielder, but he was playing on the left-hand side, which meant that he wasn't as inclined to overlap the winger as he normally does when he's on the right-hand side when he overlaps Salah, which I like to see because it meant he was more fixed. And while I wouldn't say it was a fully double pivot between him and Fabinho, it was more like that, which maybe shows me that Klopp made a little adjustment to the balance of the team because of recent results, and that's a positive sign for me. And like we say, like he knows what he's doing, obviously, but this is just my opinion on what's been done. And so if that was the case, and it looked like that was the case, then that's a positive sign, and we'll see what the end of the transfer window brings. But I still think they need reinforcement in that midfield area.
I think even Klopp admitted that he needs another midfielder or two just because they have that many injuries to the midfield. I think I saw something that he might have mentioned in a press conference. So, there's like two more days until the window closes. So I'm not sure who who exactly is on your target list because it doesn't look like De Jong is going anywhere at this point in time. Um,
Too
but
much for us anyway.
yeah, like we talked about last week, like it was more the wages rather than the transfer. The transfer bill is stopping that one from going through. But yeah, I'm can't really like this is I guess a confidence booster to Liverpool. Hopefully, it's not a complacency builder. I'm not sure who you guys have next. Like we'll get that. We'll get into that once we start doing the preview, since there is midweek games. So we'll do that later in today's
I believe we
episode.
have Newcastle,
That's going
so
to be
that's a test.
at Newcastle.
Uh, not sure. It would make sense.
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking at it
because
now.
Arsenal are actually playing at home, so they're playing 2 home games in a row. So maybe you guys are playing 2 home games in a row. Who knows?
Anyway, did you have anything to add on?
Not.
Did you see any of that game? Oh, we're playing at home against Newcastle.
Nah, I didn't. I didn't watch any of the game. I just watched the highlights. I'm not sure. Like, even if I watched the game, I'm not sure what I'd get from it. Because it's sort of like you know when we used to play like juniors, and like there would be that team that you'd always bang in like 10 or 15 goals against. Like
Or you'd be the team that was getting. Oh, I had to suffer that early in my junior career.
yeah, like, or you'd be
15-0,
like
not fun.
it's not a learning experience for either team.
Nah.
So all it does is help your goal difference and not help Bournemouth's goal difference pretty much. It doesn't really tell anything in regards to how the season is going or how it's going to go. So yeah, like didn't really bother watching it after. I just had a look at the highlights, saw if there was any great goals, and yeah, there was a couple of good ones. But yeah, we pretty much that's it with the Liverpool Bournemouth game.
That's a fair way to approach big teams' games against Bournemouth so far this season. There's not much stock in them.
Yeah, the only thing is like Bournemouth need to stop copying goals like that because they're already on minus 14 goal difference.
Very
And
soft.
and goal difference obviously will play a huge part towards the end of the season. And if they have such a big like deficit, and if they're like equal on points with another relegation candidate, then these results where they shipped, three goals against Arsenal, 4 goals against City, 9 goals against Liverpool, instead of like maybe 1 or 2 or max 3 in those games, but not 9, then yeah, it's not going to help them at the end of the season.
You know what the worst thing is as well? They're not even going for it in these games either. They're trying to sit back and they're still coughing this many goals. Like, what's going on there? That's horrible. I don't know. They've been woeful. So
Yeah,
we'll see them when they're playing in their league.
yeah. Let's see how they go against like the other teams that got promoted and the mid table teams. But yeah, no harsh judgments for now. But yeah,
I'll tell you what though,
yeah,
there's not for me. There's not many. There's not that many bad teams in the Premier League that I've seen so far this season.
you're saying that after you
Like
just
I
watched
think
a team cop 9 goals.
no, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is bad for Bournemouth as well because like where are all these other bad teams that they're going to be playing against? Like Leeds look like a decent team. Brighton, we know how good they've been. Newcastle, we know. Wolves. So, and then I guess Villa and probably West Ham we expect to get out of it. Villa's another pretty disappointing team so far. Even Brentford have been good, so I don't know. Bournemouth, Fulham have been pretty good to start the
Yeah.
season as well. So, yeah, Bournemouth will need to get their act together.
Well, since we just mentioned Fulham, like I guess we can go into that game and then we'll talk about Chelsea, Leicester, and then United. But yeah, that like Fulham. Okay, this was an interest. I don't want to spend too much time on this game because like we've already given Arsenal their praises, and in terms of this game, I don't know the best way to put it, but like Arsenal looked good. They did look a little bit off the pace than what they usually do, but they were missing Zinchenko and Partey. But they looked solid. They were controlling the game, and they just couldn't quite put away their chances. And they did create some decent chances. There wasn't, from memory, there wasn't any like clear cut gilt edge chances that they missed. But there was some decent ones where you're like, okay, this probably should have been a goal, at least in the first half. And then in the second half, Fulham got, they got it was a defender's mistake, but it was a good press from Mitrovic as well. A couple of seasons ago, I heard one of the pundits say a couple of seasons ago Mitrovic wouldn't have pressed the defender like that because he was a little bit lazier. Now he's like working a lot harder, and he's become a better striker, and especially from off the ball standpoint. But then after that, like it was Arsenal. I guess it was Arsenal's first taste of adversity, and they didn't drop their heads like they probably might have last season, playing against a team that's going to sit back in a low block and that you can't break down. And they managed to get 2 goals back, and come back from behind to get the win, which is, it's a good sign from them, a good sign of maturity, I suppose, from this team that's, last year people were saying that they were too young. Now that whole team is a year older, and another year playing together. So overall, it was a deserved result in terms of Arsenal winning, because I felt for pretty much the whole 90 minutes they controlled the game. Once they did go 2-1 up, Fulham did start to attack and open up a little bit more, and Arsenal did concede 2 or 3 chances that they didn't in the first half. But overall, on the balance of play, it was the right result. I can say that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I also think that when you look at games like this, it's probably 95% of the time it is fair to say that about the team who is expected to dominate the game and have more possession. Arsenal weren't bad in this game by any stretch of the imagination, but football's fickle, because we could be looking at a situation right now where Arsenal lost that game 1-0, because when you look at their goals, one's a deflection off an Odegaard shot that goes past Leno, and the second one's a Leno mistake. So Arsenal are somewhat gifted those goals. I know that you gifted the goal to Fulham as well through Gabriel, but on the flip side of the coin, we could be saying if they lose that game or if they draw that game 1-1, Gabriel's a weak link. Like if he doesn't get that redemption. So all the conditions for this game and what happened in terms of what will serve for the Arsenal narrative going forward were perfect. Everything just sort of worked out perfectly for what the narrative can be going forward from here, because now you see Odegaard's wearing the captain's armband and he's driving Arsenal forward to get this result. And he really was. He was really good in this game.
Yeah.
He was bossing it in that midfield, and he's been very good probably since they had that run last season and going into this season for sure. Arsenal seem to have taken it up to another level. So, and like the cherry on top is Gabriel getting the goal as well to get it back. His confidence probably stays at the same level, if not is a little bit higher, when on another day he could have really been looking in the mirror and asking some questions. So perfect for how this broke for Arsenal. Fulham are a pretty good side, but they were also a good side for Arsenal to play in terms of trying to get the goal back. It would have been interesting to see how it would have went against, like, say, a Newcastle or a Brighton or someone like that, whether they could do it, because Fulham, I don't think, are in that level. They're probably the level below those teams. So, like you say, an easy start for Arsenal, but they've taken full advantage of it, and they've got 12 points, and they're the only side in the league who can say that, and we get to see them get tested on the weekend. So, like you say, let's bring it on, and let's see it, because United are in a good patch of form. Let's see if these two teams' form continues in the midweek. But let's hope it does, because then we could be setting ourselves up for a really tasty clash in that one.
Yeah, the only thing I will also add on is that when Arsenal did go 1-0 down, Arteta made the substitution pretty much straight away, where he brought off Tierney and brought on Nketiah, and they went to a 3-4-3. And I think then Saka dropped
Well, to be
into
fair, he had
midfield.
at the start he had Martinelli playing as a pretty much a left back, like a really attacking left back. But when they
Yeah,
didn't have the ball, he was getting all the way back, and then he changed him with Saka. So he definitely went all out for it.
yeah, and
Whether
so he
that was
didn't
because it was
hesitate.
against, yeah, he didn't hesitate. But again, that one falls under. On another day, that could have gone wrong. They could exploit the space in behind Martinelli or Saka, and then you're 2-0 down and you've
Yeah,
lost the game at home because you've made this change. Like, I'm not saying he's wrong for making that change because obviously it was right. And Nketiah looked pretty good when he
yeah,
came on, had some chances, sort of did the thing that I expect Nketiah to do in terms of at least his movement is better now. But like when
yeah.
he got into those positions, it was a bit. Uh, I would like to see a bit more decisive for £120,000 a week, but that's neither here nor there. So he made the right changes for the narrative. Perfect again, but like I'm saying, just on another day that could go a different way. They exploit the space in behind. It was very, very gung ho. Whether that was because he thought Fulham couldn't really hurt them, and whether he would have done that against maybe a higher level team, would have been interesting to see. But look, it all worked. They won
Well,
2-1.
yeah.
12 points in the bag.
Yeah. Well, Fulham didn't really show anything up until that goal, which came against the run of play. I think they had like 0 shots on target. They had 5 or 6 shots on goal, but 0 on target up until then. But then obviously they finished the game with, I think, like 5 shots on target, because we did sort of sit back a little bit more and invited the pressure once we went 2-1 up. But yeah, all's well that ends well. Once that goal came, like once their first goal came, I was like, oh, man, I'm like, oh no, same old stuff. But we responded very well, and I'm like, and then once we got the fortune of the deflection to make it 1-1, I was like, okay, maybe we can get the win here. Like the heads didn't drop, which it's that one extra year of experience and being together that's it's sort of paying dividends now, which is good to see. But yeah, let's see how they go against Villa, which we'll sort of touch on it, and then this weekend, hopefully, if both United and Arsenal can go into the weekend with midweek wins, then it should make for an interesting game.
Yeah, no doubt. So where are you taking us next? Should we jump over to United and compare and contrast?
Yeah, we can go into United. Look, I watched this game out in one of the local bars, just sort of so I could have a nice drink while I was watching the game. But it was it was so crap though, because the sun was coming, the TV was above my eye line, so I had to look up, and the sun was coming as well from the side, and I was sort of on the right hand side as well. So there was this crappy glare on the TV screen. So
Max glare.
yeah, so it wasn't. I wasn't in the best position in terms of having a pleasant viewership experience. But I watched the game, and I discussed it with one of our regular guests or part-time guests, with Matthias. And I thought United were actually fortunate to get a result here. Over the whole totality of the 90 minutes, I thought Southampton looked like the better team. Not 90% better. Maybe a 55, 45, 60, 40, to skewed towards Southampton, because they seem to create more chances than United. It's just they couldn't put them away. And I think even if you look off of the stats, I'm pretty sure Southampton have more possession, they have more shots on goal, more shots on target as well. But they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And the goal that came, it was a nice little build up from United, but the whole time I was thinking, like, this United does not look like the United that played against Liverpool. Like, it looks more like the United that played against Brighton or Brentford. Like, very sort of a little bit withdrawn, a little bit timid, not playing with full confidence, not playing with full belief, which I found surprising considering that they had the result against Liverpool. I'm like, okay, they're going to come out and try to absolutely like press, dominate, and like no, they played a little bit more on the back foot, which is strange to see. I'm not sure if you look like you don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that, and
Okay.
so we'll do role reversal on the flip side of the coin. So you'll
Mm,
play devil's advocate this
okay.
time, and I'll defend United. But I thought the Liverpool game was sort of like we sort of touched on. It was a game that could have gone either way, but because it went the right way, it was sort of the perfect game for United to play because they only needed to come out for the first 15, 20 minutes and sort of dominate that period. They got their goal in that period. And for the large part, that was the only part of the game where they were really on the front foot against Liverpool. And that's what you'd expect against a team like Liverpool. You'd expect that they would have. They didn't dominate the game. Liverpool didn't dominate the game by any stretch of the imagination, but you'd expect them to be the more dominant team. So that worked in United's favour because while they weren't pushed to back to the edge of their box like over and over and over again, they weren't the team on the front foot, and that was perfect for them. But in this game, they had to be more of the team on the front foot. I know Southampton were at home, but you expect Southampton to take a somewhat cautious approach against a team like United, which they did. They sort of got the balance right between going for it and not going for it. I agree on another day it could have been a 0-0, but I thought United were playing with commitment, with effort. The things that we didn't see at Brentford, without a doubt. The things that we didn't really see at Brighton was a bit of a different loss because I thought Brighton just out footballed United. They played them off the park that day in the first half. But in this game, I thought United defended pretty well. The effect of Casemiro may have already rubbed off on McTominay because McTominay was doing his best Casemiro impression out there in terms of Martinez just wants to go and attack and win balls in front of him all the time. So he tries to do that. A lot of the times he does. He is quite good at defending those aerial challenges from goal kicks and whatnot. And he's good at pressing in those half spaces just in front of him. But what it means is, much like David Alaba at Real Madrid, is you need your holding midfielder to be aware of that and to clog up those spaces if he goes. I thought McTominay was absolutely fantastic in that job. And it really suits his, if he can just be switched on enough to do that, it suits his characteristics because I think we all know that he's not a particularly great footballer. We don't want him on the ball too much, but if he can do that role for the team and be an adequate replacement for Casemiro, then that's definitely a good sign going forward, especially. And the other factor is having seen a sort of glimpse of what we might be getting when Casemiro comes into the team. This is going to help Lisandro Martinez to no end. Having a player like that who will clog up your gaps and allow you to go into half spaces and press is going to help his game immensely. And whether that was Ten Hag or whoever it was at United, at this stage, it looks like, I know we haven't seen him play, but it looks like a signing that really could help a lot of players play better. I think he'll walk into that United team and be undoubtedly their best defender, even though he plays in midfield. For me, he'll be their best defender. He'll know how to play out of possession better than anyone else on the team. Rafael Varane doesn't look a shell of himself, at least. He's not peak Varane that we saw at Real Madrid, but he at least looks like he has some confidence about him. Jadon Sancho, much the same. A lot has been made about the way the armband has reinvigorated Bruno Fernandes. Is it easy enough to say that Harry Maguire was the whole problem of the whole team? No, I think that's a little bit harsh, but these players look good without him. Ten Hag again didn't go back to trying to play football for his ego and try and play the ball out at every cost. He allowed De Gea to clear the ball. He allowed De Gea to play to his strengths. And so I think more positive than negative for United, but I do agree that on another day it could have been a 0-0 game as well.
Maybe it was the glare off the TV, but like I said, I didn't. I expected more from United in this game, and I saw more will and hunger from Southampton over the 90 minutes. And yeah, a 0-0 or a 1-1 would have been a much fairer result. And like I said, I think United were fortunate to come away with a 1-0 win. On the whole Martinez point, I think him and Varane could make a very good partnership because it will sort of make up for like that. Everyone's making a big deal of the height difference, but it's also probably the style of play. Like you mentioned that he wants to press the attackers and get in front of them and try and intercept balls, and it could make for a good stylistic partnership with Varane if Varane can stay fit. And Maguire probably doesn't fit Martinez's style of playing. So, and like you said, I don't think the whole problem was Maguire, but Maguire probably didn't because Maguire's out of form, he probably then instills some sort of like hesitancy and fear within the back five, including the goalkeeper, that you don't really see at the moment with him not in the team. I don't think we touched on it, but there's rumours apparently of Chelsea being interested in Maguire, which that could probably work considering Chelsea can play with a back three, and they've shown that they would like playing with a back three. And Maguire seems to function in a back three much better than in a back four. So maybe there's a chance at rejuvenating his career or kickstarting his career, especially before the World Cup as well. Because if he's sitting on the bench for United, does Southgate call him up for the World Cup? And that becomes a question.
I shouldn't. I wonder how much Chelsea would be willing to pay for him, though. I wouldn't be offering much more than 20 mil.
I heard.
I mean, what are we buying here?
I heard
what if this 40. Is just who he is?
I heard 40, and
it's half.
Considering that's half of what United paid for him, if I was United, I'd jump on that.
Yeah, but it's still double too much.
Yeah.
If Chelsea are willing to pay that, I would also probably jump on that.
But then that also causes a problem with United. Like, who's another centre back who comes in for Varane or?
Yeah, they need to.
Because they
need to buy.
They got rid of
I think they. Buy.
Yeah. Wait, they had someone else, didn't they?
Lindelof.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he'll still be there. I don't know if he's injured at the moment, but I think he started the season.
Phil Jones
started
is still
the first
there.
Game.
Phil Jones still there, isn't he? Or did he move on?
Man, Phil Jones, come on.
No, but I'm just saying, like he's still there as another centre. I'm not saying like he's the answer, but like the
point would need to buy if they lost Maguire, they would need to buy another centre back.
Yeah,
no
they probably still need to buy another centre back anyway. So. But yeah, who knows? Maybe this United team, like, because I think they signed or they are about to sign Anthony from Ajax, but he's a winger. So, and I think there's one more player that they're on the cusp of getting, but I can't remember who it is. So I don't know. It could be a slightly different United side that started the season, and maybe it could be a similar sort of path or trajectory to Arsenal last season, where they start off very poorly. They have a good run sort of in the first quarter, then they sort of drop off, then they have another good run, then they drop off. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they go. Since I'm not a United fan, I hope they stay in the doldrums and because it's fun shitting on them.
I don't know. I think we've had our fun with that. It was getting to a point where the market was so saturated with shitting on United that something needed to change.
No,
So
because
I hope they don't become
no,
too
no, no,
good.
no, no. Here's the
But
thing. They had a good 25 years of gloating,
it's a
and
good point.
so
It's a good point.
us shitting on them for like what, 2 seasons, 3 seasons maybe. Because they did have a little bit of
Oh,
success with Van Gaal and Mourinho, because Mourinho won.
yeah, I guess so.
Van Gaal won an FA Cup with them as well. Mourinho won an
Yeah.
FA Cup and a Europa League, so they did have a little bit of success in there. Um, did Solskjaer win anything or no? Did he win a cup or
I don't think he did.
no? Yeah, I don't think he did either. But they finished second, even though it was like a measly second because Liverpool had that awful season where they barely finished fourth. But yeah, like they and now like last season they finally finished outside the top four. And yeah, like it's, like I said, the ratio of them having that 25 years of success to 2 years of, or 1.5 years of shitting on them, we're not done yet.
We'll see. We'll see. Although two wins from the last two, positive signs for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And you know what? Like actually trying. Even if Southampton won this game, at least like it wouldn't be a Brentford debacle. It wouldn't be like they didn't even try in this game.
yeah. Look, I'll admit that there was a little bit more effort there, but like I still stand by my point that I expected more from them, especially after the Liverpool result. But
But you're expecting too much.
yeah, but yeah, I saw a very even game, which you shouldn't be seeing against a team like Southampton, because a lot of people actually pick Southampton to be a relegation candidate. Before the
Yeah, I
season
think
started.
I think they will be, but not through the way they play football, just through the personnel. I
Yeah,
think Southampton are a pretty good team, sort of akin to what you would have seen in the last two seasons of Brighton under Graham Potter. They play good football, but do they have the personnel to score goals? No, not really. And to be fair, the defense actually looks pretty good for Southampton, but they're a very young team as well,
yeah,
especially through the spine. And look, just the personnel. I don't know if it's good enough to stay in the league, but in terms of what I've seen football wise, I don't think they're a bad team.
yeah, yeah. Well, still early days. Did you want to touch on Chelsea Leicester at all, or and also Tottenham
Well,
Forest?
I think we should probably touch on it. I mean, Gallagher's red card is a big talking point in the Chelsea game, and it's looking more and more like he doesn't look like a player who's suited for Tuchel and suited for this Chelsea. So it might be interesting to see if anything happens with him over the next couple of days. But yeah, that was a horror show for him on home debut, whatever it might be. And
I haven't seen the
I don't
red
know,
card,
maybe
so was it
yeah,
was it
just
a straight red or
two
two
stupid.
yellows?
No, it was two yellows and two stupid tackles. And I don't know, was he too pumped up for it? I don't know, just moments of madness. But for me, he was playing in the wrong role anyway as one of the two central midfielders because Tuchel needs those two central midfielders, much like Conte. He needs them to be really disciplined in their roles, in there, really protect those three centre backs and not go too far out of that shape, even when they have the ball, even when they're advancing the ball. He wants those two to be pretty set. And the Gallagher we saw at Crystal Palace last season was like a number 10, really. Sort of in that English mould of number 10, where it's more a runner rather than a creator in between the lines. But I think he's a good player. So if any club was looking at getting him, if Chelsea were looking at moving him on, look, honestly, I'd take him at Liverpool to be quite to the Liverpool midfield a lot better than he'd fit into the Chelsea midfield. So that one just might be something about fit, but he doesn't look like he can fit in. And obviously we've got to talk about Raheem Sterling getting off the mark for Chelsea and winning the game when they were down to 10 men. They were a man light for the whole second half, but they scored both their goals in that half. The first one's a lucky deflection. And the second one's just a typical soft Leicester goal. And I've said this about Leicester, and they're just a soft team. They go up a man and they don't really take advantage of it, and they concede the first goal you can't do much about. Maybe you can close down the shot a little bit quicker. But the second goal, I don't know. Maybe can we get out and not allow that cross to come in? And then if it does come in, can Danny Ward do anything? They're missing Casper Schmeichel, and that's saying something because Casper Schmeichel wasn't very good last season. Not compared to what his form was around the middle of last decade, particularly obviously when they won the title. So I don't know. There's worrying signs at Leicester. Leicester are almost the opposite of Southampton, where I don't know if the football's bad though per se, but Leicester have the personnel definitely to stay in the league unless they get decimated in the next 2 days. But they're just not
Fafana is
playing like
leaving.
it at the moment. Yeah, so exactly. There's one, and will they have time to replace him? I don't know, and that's a big problem area for Leicester, given how soft I think they are, especially in there. So worrying signs for them. It'll be interesting to see how they progress over the coming weeks to see where they're at around that 12, 15 game mark, because then we'll know what kind of battle you're in for the season.
Yeah, it's a little strange that they haven't signed anyone yet. They only brought in the goalkeeper to replace Schmeichel, but they haven't.
I think he was already there. I think Ward was
Oh,
already there as
that
well.
means that they've had no
Yeah.
incomings, right? And like I think middle of the last season, like especially after they got knocked out of the FA Cup to Forest, I think Brendan Rodgers like really went in hard on his team and saying like some players don't want to be here. They're not ready for this level because they can't fight and all this stuff. And like we need to have a change of personnel. And the guys above him who have the they control the purse strings. They haven't listened to Rodgers. So has Rodgers been left out to dry pretty much?
Depends what kind. I'm not privy to how clubs work in terms of how much stock they take in what the manager's saying in terms of transfers. So it really depends on that dynamic on who gets the blame for what there. But they're gonna once that Fafana money comes in, they're gonna have to use it somewhat quickly. But clubs are gonna know that they want to use it. If they might just have to white knuckle it until the January transfer market and hope that things turn around and that they're at least in the safety of mid-table, so that they can really assess their options. Because I don't think it ever works out well when you get a truckload of money for one player and then you try and spend it very quickly after getting it. I think you've got to be more diligent, especially if you're a club like Leicester. You're already given such an amazing sum for Harry Maguire, and now you're getting given an amazing sum for Fafana. So I think it's important for a club like that to make sure they really weigh up their options and get the right players in, even if it means that they're not very good from here till January. But again, I still think they have enough quality to not be in serious trouble come the middle of the season.
Yeah, there's just something just feels off with Leicester at the moment because, like you said, they have the personnel to be doing better than what they are. Because like are they winless as well? I think they've lost two and drawn two, if I'm not mistaken. Or
Yeah, I believe they are. Yeah.
yeah, so. And I think one of their games was they were 2-0 up against Brentford, wasn't it? In the opening game of the season,
Yeah,
they
first game of the season.
and they gave up a
Bottom
2-0 lead.
and they're
So
bottom of the table.
yeah, so it's I don't know, it's sort of worrying, but and like you said, like they got 80 mil incoming. But even if they wait till January, like in January, because squads are pretty much settled, you're paying like a premium to unsettle a squad by trying to take players out of different teams. So like a player that now or at the start of the transfer window, maybe not now because the season's already started, but at the start of the transfer window, a player that would have been like 40 mil in January is probably 50 or 60 mil because the importance probably would have gone up on that player, and they're in the middle of the season. The team might be challenging for Champions League spots because that's where they found themselves. So I don't think if they're not going to sign anyone now, who knows whether they'll even sign anyone in January because of that January premium.
Well, there'll be. I think the January premium will be less than the premium you'd pay in the next couple of days if you wanted to use that money straight away, because clubs know you're coming, and they not only do they know you're on a deadline of a couple of days, but they know you've got 80 million to spend. Obviously, they'll know that in January, but the novelty of that would have worn off. It just depends on the targets, because if, like you say, they're going for any sort of key players in a team that's challenging for top four, I don't think any of those players would even be attracted to Leicester by then anyway. So, yeah, it's either that. Maybe they get to the middle of the season in January. They're mid-table. They're doing fine. They're not going to challenge for any European spots, but they're not going to get relegated. So they just roll it over to next summer, where they have a few months to do their work. But yeah, I'm always interested to see what happens when a club gets a lot of money like that. See how they go about spending it, because you've had obviously your instances like the 100 million for Gareth Bale and Tottenham spend it straight away. Or then you get your instance like Leicester, and I think they reinvested that Harry Maguire money into Tielemans, Fana, and all these players who are now looking to be sold. So it could go either way when you get this lump sum. Just looking at the table as well, Leicester are bottom, but unbelievably for me, anyway, for my eye, Wolves are second bottom. I think Wolves have been really good this season in the two matches I've seen them play. So to see them right down there at second bottom is, well, again, sort of points to the strength of the league. I mean, Bournemouth are fourth bottom somehow. They got that win on the opening day, but I don't see that one. But yeah, I don't know. This Premier League season is shaping up very nicely in terms of a lot of teams competing, especially in the middle.
Yeah, and Liverpool's there in the middle as well.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
Just on Wolves as well, honestly, Ruben Neves might be my favourite player in the league to watch right now.
Yeah,
He's so much fun.
It
so
is.
I don't expect them to be down there for long.
It is surprising because, like, you know how I said that, like, for United Southampton, a draw would have been a fair result. Wolves Tottenham last weekend, that would have been a fair result, a draw as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
I thought that one actually would have been unfair, because I thought Wolves were clearly the better team in that game.
Yeah, so like, yeah, them being only on 2 points after 4 games, but you know, no, I think they should. They will start to pick up points, and they'll probably be middle of the table by the time the World Cup comes around.
Yeah, and that's when we've got to take stock in the table, I guess. Probably 10 games minimum, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then we'll see where things are at.
Yeah,
but it's too easy and too fun to make exaggerated statements at this point of the season.
Yeah, but Brighton have pretty much started the exact same way they started last season. Because last season, I think when they're like first or second for the first like 5 or 6 games of the season, because they like managed to like win and draw every single one of them. Like they hadn't lost the game for like I don't know how many match days, and like they're sitting equal second at the moment. Still haven't lost the game, so I don't expect them to be there for long, but they've started off the season well.
I don't know. Brighton have been immense. I've been really impressed with Brighton. They're really good in possession. They're really good out of possession. Graham Potter puts players in the right positions. The only thing is really they lack a striker, but Danny Welbeck has looked like the best version of Danny Welbeck we could possibly have been seeing. They get really nice balance, really nice partnerships throughout the system. Pascal Gross has started fantastically well, and they're not missing Basuma, who was their big sell this summer, and they're not missing. You think that they've sold Basuma and Ben White in consecutive summers, and the team just keeps progressing. I think Graham Potter's doing a fantastic job, and I think Brighton are a really good team to watch. But like you say, can we really expect them to be challenging for top 4? I don't know. West Ham were that team who sort of did it for 3/4 of the season last season. Can Brighton be this season's version of that? maybe. There's a lot of clubs in contention to do that, though, because Newcastle have started really well as well. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to probably, because we've hit this run now where we've got games pretty much every 3 days. So we're really going to be inundated with football, and we're going to get a pretty clear picture of what the league's going to look like pretty quickly. And that's what I'm looking forward to, no doubt. So, yeah, Brighton are still on my watch list for sure. Like, I've gotten to the point where now I've got to cull a few teams. So Dortmund didn't get a watch this weekend. Tottenham got a late Monday night watch. They barely made the list because Tottenham I haven't been impressed with, and I guess we'll touch on them probably nowish. But yeah, I've got to start culling the teams that I don't really want to watch because I'm still trying to watch things from all over Europe as well. So, but Brighton is still on that list, and I'm very impressed with Brighton.
Well, since you mentioned Tottenham, I didn't watch the game. I heard a little bit about. It was a topic in regard, like it had nothing really to do with the game itself, but it was in regards to like Richarlison showboating. I haven't seen the incident, but
yeah, me neither. I watched till about the second Kane goal, and then I turned it off.
Yeah, I haven't seen the incident, but apparently like he was showboating, and then like he got cleaned up by the by the defender.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. But yeah, like
well, how long's he been in England now? You've got to understand the culture. If you do that to English players, they're going to kick you. There's no doubt about it. So if you don't want to be kicked, don't do that shit.
Yeah. But at the same point, like, there was like it was more in regards to like people saying, "Oh, it's arrogant" and all this stuff. It's like, well, football's entertainment, isn't it? So like, the Tottenham fans would have loved it. The Forest fans wouldn't have, obviously.
Can I tell you why I get my entertainment in situations like that?
When
the guy who's doing it gets kicked. Yeah, that's where I get my entertainment from that. Well, I hate showboat. I hate tricks just for the sake of doing tricks. Like we were talking about Ronaldinho in the first team. It's like, if you're going to do something fancy, do it with a purpose.
Yeah, do it
That's
to
when I'll
actually
love it.
beat a player, not just like you're standing face to face with a player and then like you're doing step overs, waiting for them to make a move. Like, and also like with, for instance, with R9 with the original Ronaldo, when he would do his step overs, he'd do his step overs to beat a defender or beat a goalkeeper. Like he wouldn't be doing step overs in the corner just for the sake of doing step overs. Because what's the bloody point? But yeah, what are your thoughts on the game? Like how did Tottenham look?
Tottenham were benefited from playing this game away from home because Tottenham, for me, are shaping up to look like a team who are always going to be more attractive when they play away from home, just because we expect the other team to come onto them a bit more when they're not at home. So that's when Tottenham are at their most fun. They get their opening goal in the first, 10, 15 minutes. Kane scuffs one into the corner. I don't know if the defender or Henderson can do a little bit better with that one, but once you get a goal early in a game like that, that really helps because now the opposition really need to come out. And to Forest's credit, they used the ground and they really went for it. And I thought they definitely didn't disgrace themselves. They look like they're going to be a tough team, especially to play away. Like you said, I think on one of the preview pods, or the preview pod for this, in fact, that ground generates a really good atmosphere and is going to be a tough place to go this season, I imagine. And they're going to put pressure on you in the way they play at home as well. They're not going to sit back. So in that aspect, it works for Tottenham because I don't think Tottenham want to have the ball. In their ideal world, they don't want to play with possession. So Kane finally, he gets his goals. He's looking like the world-class striker he is. But yeah, let's see Tottenham in the challenges where they're playing at home and a team gives them possession, and let's see how they deal with that because I still think that's where they're going to struggle in a game like that. But in this game, like I said, Kane gets his goals. Kulusevski was probably man of the match. He was fantastic, and he's really impressed me since coming to the Premier League because I didn't think all that much of him when he was still at Juve, but he has taken to the Premier League like a duck to water, and yeah, Tottenham keep rolling on, and if they can play better than this, then that's a very good sign for them.
Like I said, I didn't watch the game, but like just going off of their Wolves performance and also the Chelsea performance, by the sounds of it, they're playing similar to how they played in those two games, where they're unimpressive, but they're still getting the result. They haven't. Oh,
I thought this one was a little bit more Forest putting them under the pump, rather than them sort of being lazy, or not lazy, but sloppy and not intense
not
enough.
being interested.
I thought they were, yeah, I thought they were pretty decent in this game, but
Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
wanna. I still want to see them against Liverpool and City, even though Liverpool haven't exactly gotten off to a great start. Because like even at the start of the season, we said that Chelsea, like people were saying Chelsea could finish fifth, and like Tottenham and Arsenal above them. So, and they didn't, performance wise, definitely didn't pass the Chelsea test, but they managed to not lose. And that's why I'm more interested in seeing how they go against City and Liverpool, because no one expected too much from Chelsea just because of I guess all of the debacle with change of ownership and then bringing in new players and the squad not being settled, and still isn't settled as well. So yeah, I want to see how they fare against Liverpool and Chelsea. But you mentioned like they like they like to be the team that gives possession over to the team. So maybe, and last season, like what they drew twice against Liverpool and they beat City both times.
yeah.
So
No, you've made my point for me. I was going to say I'm actually more interested in the games where they're at home and they have to have a lot of the ball and break a team
Like against
down.
Brighton.
Yeah, well, Brighton do play against teams, to be fair. So maybe I don't know how many teams don't play in the league now. How many teams do actually sit back and do
United.
it well? Like a Palace, yeah,
Yeah,
United. So
Palace.
they're the test that I'm interested to see Tottenham be put in,
Yeah.
because, like you say, we know what a Liverpool and City against Tottenham game is going to look like, and always have a great game plan for those teams.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it goes. Like, did you want to get into a preview or did you want to take a quick break?
Well, I wanted to. I
Or do you have
reckon.
anything else to add in regards to the weekend that just
Yeah,
went by?
I just wanted to talk about a few European fixtures and
Yeah.
just touch on a few things across the continent. And it started with Lazio Inter on the Friday night, and Serie A is just shaping up perfectly with, I think, probably six of the top eight teams are teams that we sort of discuss with either chances or outside chances to win the league this season. And these are two of them. And Inter aren't an outside chance at all. And I remember thinking in this game, first 20 minutes of watching it, I'm thinking, you know what, Inter, you wouldn't put them in their top tier of European clubs, but you wouldn't put them far behind, I don't think. They'd be in the second tier. And then after 20 minutes, the game they're playing at the Olimpico away at Lazio, and the game sort of gets away from them. They go 1-0 down, lack concentration. What I will say about Inter, they have really good players all over the pitch, probably in terms of starting 11 and maybe even squad, the best in Italy for me. But their balance isn't quite right after losing Perisic. And so they were using DeMarco as the left wing back in this game. And I don't think he offers enough as a wing back. I don't really like him in that position. And Bastone was the left centre back. And for me, Bastone probably wants to play. I don't trust him as a centre back. I do trust him as one of a three, but I'd rather a winger playing in front of him so that he's more of an auxiliary left back. But the space gets opened up between DeMarco and Bastoni for the first goal, and Felipe Anderson just jogs into it. Milinkovic-Savic, who had a terrible start to the game, really grew into the game, provides the assist. And after a rough first 20 minutes, he was fantastic for the rest of the game, because Lazio ask him to do absolutely everything in the midfield. He has to make the forward runs. He has to be the out ball when they want a physical player up the pitch. He has to track back. He has to put in tackles. So kind of like what a Jude Bellingham, what they're asking him to do at Dortmund, just sort of do everything in the midfield. But on this occasion, he was able to pretty much do it. Not by himself. Vecino had a good game, and I guess the holding midfielder had a decent game as well. But when you think against Brozovic, Barella, and I think they had Gagliardini playing in this game, so Inter for me when they're on, they look like the best team in Italy. But Lukaku wasn't good in this game, and he'll need to be good if Inter are going to win the title. So Lazio end up getting the win and sort of now they go above Inter in the table. Early days, I know, but maybe they'll be in the hunt for maybe top four. It'll be hard to see them challenging for the title because I don't think Milinkovic, Savic, and Immobile by themselves really are enough. But an impressive win against, for me, what should be the best team in Italy. But just a few question marks coming now for Inter. And I believe we have the Milan derby on the weekend. So that will be a great opportunity to see how they bounce back. I think they've got midweek games as well. So hopefully for their sake, they bounce back in the midweek and can take some form to the Milan derby. But AC Milan haven't really impressed me. They do what they do. They're missing Frank Gassi, but they're not really missing him so far. Theo Hernandez, I've spoken about before. Rafael Leao is always a threat. So I expect those two teams to be the major challenges in Italy. But I really enjoyed the Lazio Inter game from the Friday night. And I guess from there, I want to go. Well, there was another game in Serie A, and Juve against Roma.
I watched a little bit of that one, but
You got a little bit.
only
Yeah,
a little
did
bit.
you see the Vlahovic free kick?
No, I didn't see that. I only watched the first 20 minutes or so.
Oh, it was in the first minute, to be fair. So maybe you just missed that one.
Yeah, I might have just missed it because I came home from dinner and I just sort of turned it on. And I think it was already 5 or 10 minutes in or so. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought Roma were awful in the first half. I thought Mourinho got it completely wrong with his tactics. He was leaving his two central midfielders on an island to deal with Juve, who had fullbacks and wingers playing either side of them, and the back five was very set. I didn't really get what they were trying to do, but at the end of the day, they get out of there with a 1-1 draw. It's probably not an endorsement for either of these sides. Juve, if Vlahovic isn't doing something special, I don't see what they're going to do this season. He is the only player who has the potential to be world class for them now. For me,
Is Chiesa back?
Juve look No, he's not bad. Oh, I haven't seen him this season, so I think they're still taking their time with him. I'm not sure how his rehab's going, but yeah, he's another good one that you point to. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back from the injury anyway. If they can get a partnership between those two, then maybe they can do something this season. But they've been thoroughly unimpressive. Roma had been impressive up until this point, but didn't really cover themselves in glory, especially the way they played first half. So yeah, Serie A is shaping up with a lot of contenders. So it'll be very fun to see how that shapes up over the next couple of weeks. But I guess in Spain, it finally got underway. The Lewandowski v Benzema is finally up and running. Both players scored 2 goals on the weekend. I guess, and I asked Matthias before the season, but I want to ask you as well. I don't know if I've already asked you, but who do you see as getting the better of each other in that battle? Who's going to score the more goals or just be the better overall player this season? Because Lewandowski's now 4 in these last 2 games, and I think Benzema's also. Did he get 2 at Celta? But I think he's up to 4 as well. So they're carrying off where they left off last season.
Yeah, I'm not sure I don't think you asked that specific question. I think you just asked who will win the league, I suppose, or how you think Barca will go. And my claim was that the squad, it probably will need time to gel and settle because they've got so many new incomings. Whereas the Real squad, they brought in Tchouaméni, and they brought him in early as well. other than that, they haven't really brought anyone new in, have
Well,
they?
Rudiger played on the weekend as
Oh yeah,
well,
they brought
next
in
to Eder
Rudiger, but
Militao.
they brought in Rudiger early as well. But they lost
Yeah,
Casemiro,
yeah.
and obviously we spoke about this before Casemiro left, and who would have expected him to leave, especially to United. Um, but like in terms of like the Benzema Lewandowski sort of head to head, similar to I guess the Messi Ronaldo head to head, like where that was always the narrative, especially when the two teams came against one another, like 5, 10 years ago. I think just because the squad is more settled at Real Madrid, I think, and Benzema is the talisman and is that main guy. He might not get more goals, but he'll be a far more important player to Real Madrid than what Lewandowski is to Barca. I don't think Lewandowski's going to be that talisman for Barca just because they have so many great players around him that can control and dictate the game and create chances, whereas Benzema seems to be the one that creates the chances as well and interlinks the team. Um, and I don't think Barca are necessarily going to play in that sort of same similar style. So Lewandowski could well get more goals. Like I wouldn't be surprised at that, but But Benzema's going to be the better player.
Yeah, and that depends on what the goal differential is as well, because at the end of the day, they're both strikers, so their role is to score goals. I do definitely agree that Benzema plays more as a 9.5 and has more to his game, a more complete striker than Lewandowski. But Lewandowski can't be sold short in his link-up play as well. He's not a guy who just stands in the box. He, especially in this Barca on the weekend, he was part of the press. He was part of the link-up. They went back to a 4-3-3. Like I said, they changed system last weekend in that game against, I think, Sociedad. Yeah, it was Sociedad. So they went back to a normal 4-3-3. And the interesting thing is you say that there's so many new arrivals in the squad, which obviously there are. But in this game, there was only Lewandowski Lewandowski, Rafinha, and Kunde who started in the starting 11. So for the most part, it was same old Barca as last season. A 4-3-3, Dembele playing, Busquets playing, Gavi and Pedri playing, Eric Garcia and Araujo at the back. Interesting one to look for. I don't know why this has happened, but Jordi Alba's been dropped at left back and they're favouring Balde out there. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if there's stories out about it, but that's an interesting one for me because for me, Jordi Alba's still one of the best left backs in the world. And if he's not in favour of Barcelona, I think any top club in Europe should be sniffing around to see if they can get that guy, especially say a Tottenham, for example, someone like that. But yeah, they looked like the same Barca from last season. A rigid back four, a lot of mobility from the central midfielders in terms of joining up with the front three, making those runs because they have the solidity of the back four and Busquets behind them. Jules Koundé, interestingly, started the game at right back as well. So interesting decisions. Valladolid were very open and sort of easy to play against when Barca are at home. They didn't really create much, so Barca will need sterner tests for us to really judge them. Real Madrid had a little bit more of a tougher test at Espanyol, and I thought, like you say, this is going to be interesting to see how it pans out without Casemiro because he was, like I keep saying, he was the best defensive player at Real Madrid last season. And Tchouaméni looks great for his age, but that's great for his age. I had to put the qualifier on it. Is he one of the world's great holding midfielders yet? No. We've got to see that to believe it. In the second half, I didn't really notice him in the game against Espanyol. And for the most part, you'd think that would be his advantage over Casemiro, the fact that he's a bit more of a ball player. But in this game, when you watch Real Madrid, especially in this game, it's all about the partnership between Vinicius and Benzema. Vinicius has started the season like a house on fire. perpetual motion. He's sort of, even if he's dribbling the ball and his avenue's been cut off, he'll sort of turn out, and then the opposition will think, oh, it's all good, we forced him back, and then he'll just go again. He'll look for another space in, he'll look for another little 1-2. He's just absolutely full of energy. He doesn't look like a world-class prospect anymore. He's starting to look like a world-class player. And I've been really impressed with his progression in the last couple of seasons. And if he can continue this form, there's no doubt he'll be one of the best attacking players in the world in absolutely no time. If he's not already there, to be fair, because he was such a big part of a team that won a Champions League and a league title. And sometimes you can see Benzema sort of get frustrated at him like a little brother, but those two are so important for each other because Vinicius always offers something in behind for the opposition to worry about, which gives Benzema all that space to drop into and play as his 9.5. So it's almost like what you'd see from Son and Kane, except for my eye, I prefer watching these two because I think these two can do a little bit more. But Real Madrid, in terms of that, looks scary. The question mark again is over that holding midfield role in the bigger games. So La Liga's shaping up nicely in terms of those two teams. And Real Madrid sort of get a test against the only other team who have won all 3 games to start the season in Real Betis on the weekend. So we might know more after this weekend. And just finally, we always do these two teams together, Bayern and PSG, because there's not much to talk about from the rest of those leagues, Germany and France. If you're going to watch, honestly, this performance in this game, and I'm calling it early, but if it's not the best performance of the individual performance of the season, then it's going to be I'm going to want to watch the performance that beats it. And Jan Sommer for Gladbach in the Bayern game, and he was so, I really wanted him to keep the clean sheet and for Gladbach to win that game because he deserved it. It was unfortunate to concede the goal, but the amount of saves he made, like unbelievable saves as well, just to get Gladbach a point in this game was absolutely incredible. Apart from that, it was sort of game you'd expect to see. Gladbach sitting back, Bayern looking menacing on the attack. So not much to take from that. And the PSG Monaco game, I thought there was a little bit to take from it because I thought PSG were really poor in this game. Poor individual performances. The body language didn't look as good as it did against Lille. I'm not saying it was particularly bad, but Neymar started the game really grumpy. Kimpembe started the game really shaky, which he tends to do. And and Verratti was doing his normal. And I'm so glad you pulled me up on this when we were talking about, I think late last season or maybe early this season, when I put Verratti maybe in a category he shouldn't have been, because in this game he really annoyed me. He's one of those players who, if I was his manager, I would fine him every time he talked to the referee because it pisses me off. Every time the referee makes a decision, he's in the face. And it's like, you're not the captain. The referee should just book him straight away. Referee should book any player who is not the captain who goes up to them to talk about anything. Just book him. Tell him to piss off and book him because it's so annoying. And he was doing his act of like, much in the Gattuso role where he's just like trying to win every tackle. He's spent most of the game on the ground making slide tackles for some reason. I don't know why. But that, and new signing Ronaldo Sanchez started, and he was very tentative for his new club. And we've seen what happened to him when he went to Bayern. The stage was a bit too big. So it'll be interesting to see if this stage is a little bit too big for him as well. There's talks that Fabian Ruiz from Napoli is completing a medical to go to PSG. So is he the answer in the midfield? Probably not for me. I want a bit more of a presence because I'm still not completely convinced by that midfield at PSG. But and the back three, the front three didn't link up well. Mbappe looked selfish in this game rather than being that facilitator that he was against Lille. And the back three were a bit all over the place, which I don't know. Kimpembe, we can sort of expect it, but Marquinhos had his worst game that I've seen him play for the best part of a year. He was all over the shop, and Ramos wasn't putting out the fires, and I thought Monaco, they could have lost the game because PSG hit the post like 4 times or something, but they also could have won the game. So, um, not disastrous for PSG, but it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back, particularly in the Champions League, because while it's not, you expect them to get out of the group, it's not the easiest group either with Juve, Benfica, and I forget the last team, but those two teams in themselves should offer them somewhat a challenge. So, yeah, that's just what I saw from around Europe. I don't know if you have anything to add, anything you think of what I just said, or we could just go to the preview.
No, just on the Gladbach point. Gladbach are sort of like they're that bogey team to Bayern Munich, and they have been for the last couple of seasons ever since they got into the Bundesliga. I think maybe 10 or so seasons ago, and I remember they actually cost me like quite a big multi bet. Like I think I had like a 8 leg multi, and
Oh, no.
Bayern Gladbach was the last leg, and it was Bayern at home as well, and it was the opening game of the season, and Gladbach beat them 1-0. And I think that was when Gladbach first got promoted as well. And I remember even my dad, like he used to talk about Gladbach back in the 70s. Like Bayern and Gladbach would be the two teams that would provide like pretty much the entire squad to the German national team. So they have a rivalry going back from the 70s as well. So yeah, that's them they're keeping up that tradition of being that bogey team to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, well, they definitely have Jan Sommer to thank for this one because he was unreal.
Yeah, and also yeah, with the PSG point, yeah, their midfield's been lacking for a long time. They haven't had that quality midfield for ages, and I never I've never had I've never rated Verratti that highly just because he's immature and petulant, and he can lose his head very easily, and then he ends up costing his team. So I've never rated him that highly based on his mentality. But his quality on the ball is fantastic. But yeah, he can lose his head extremely easily. So if he comes up against a midfielder with a better mentality, even if he's the better player, he will lose that battle. So yeah, PSG they have like on paper they probably have the best backline and possibly the best front three in all of Europe. Um, but their midfield is what's missing, and if you don't have a midfield, you're gonna lose games pretty much. So
You know who will be awesome for PSG?
eh,
Frank Kessie. I actually don't know why he went to Barcelona, and I don't know how much Xavi's gonna use him this season. To be quite honest, but I think it would be awesome at PSG. I think it would have been awesome to stay at Milan as well. So if we don't get to see much of him, I'll be pretty disappointed this season. To be quite honest,
yeah. Well, wait,
but
did
yeah,
he did
just a
he
thought.
did he come in with an injury or no?
I think he came on as a sub in the first game for Barcelona, but I don't know what's happened to him since. I haven't seen him since.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, that's pretty much like what the roundup of Europe as well. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back to preview the midweek games from the Premier League.
And we're back. And in our break, I decided to go on to Instagram. And the first thing that I saw is that Scott Parker has been sacked as Bournemouth manager. So here we go. Here's a first. We get to sort of not break the news, but we get to react to the live breaking news. And for me, that's a puzzling one. Even though that they did lose 9-0 to Liverpool and they did look very poor, but as you said in the break, they were facing three of the best teams in England, and they lost those games. But the one that they didn't play against one of those top sides, they won. So pretty incredible news just 4 games into the season, and it's, I don't know, disappointing news, I think, because this is the guy who got you back to this level, and I think he deserves a bit more of a chance than what he's got, because Bournemouth is still not even in the relegation zone when he's been sacked. So kind of incredible, and I want to get your reaction to it now.
Well, I think I said last week, like, give managers at least 10 games. Like, I think I said like around October, November, give them until then to see how the team's going. Because yeah, like they had a really tough fixture in regards to like their first 4 games, and they got 1 win and 3 losses, but the 3 losses come against last year's number 1 and 2, and this year's potential number 3. People are expecting them to be a definite number 4, and so yeah, they for me, and like you said, for considering he got them back in the Premier League as well, for me it's I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit rushed. The only thing is if he completely lost the dressing room, and if the players just are not playing for him anymore. But like, why would he lose the dressing room after 3 defeats to the top 3 teams in England? Like, why would the players, revolt against the manager? Like, they would have gone into the once the fixtures came out, they would have gone into the season knowing we're probably going to take 0 points from these 3 games. In all reality. So, yeah, the confusing one for me.
Yeah, I agree. Confusing and a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But let's. I think the major thing in terms of the global landscape of football is that Scott Parker has provided everyone with a set play off the kickoff, which everyone's now emulating. And PSG did to devastating effect a couple of weeks ago. And now every team's doing it. So say what you want about Scott Parker, managerial genius, and he's had an imprint on the global game.
Yeah, hopefully he can. I don't know. I considering because he got sacked at Fulham as well. Like, he brought Fulham up and then he got sacked at Fulham. Maybe
I can't remember if that was a sacking or if he left to go to Bournemouth before the start of that season.
I think it was a sacking.
I don't know for what. For what reason.
So, maybe he's that type of manager at the moment. And considering he's still a young manager as well, maybe he's like a championship level manager to get them back in the Premier League, and then just can't cut in the Premier League for whatever reason.
It's sacked.
Yeah. But at least he lasted longer at Fulham. I think he lasted almost a full season. But look, moving on from that piece of breaking news, we're going to quickly, I guess, go into the midweek games and preview them. I think, just looking at it quickly, there's only there's not like any big games like any top 6 games, but there's some decent games happening midweek. So we have Chelsea, Southampton. Well, I'm just mentioning them because Chelsea are a top 4 candidate. Man City, Forest. That could be interesting, considering Forest, like, they look pretty decent.
Where is that? Is that City or?
That's at the Etihad. So
City that's the problem.
City should roll them over.
Even if they're 2-0 down, they'll still do it.
Well, Forest are an interesting one. I don't think we've touched on it. Like, they've signed 15 players. They've signed pretty much almost an entire new squad.
Yeah,
Like,
crazy.
um,
But
so that's a crazy one that, and they've started off decently as well.
well, honestly, much like Barcelona, they've signed all these players, but they're still playing with the players they played last season. So
Yeah,
that apparently hasn't made that much of a difference yet. But yeah, they've looked all right up
yeah.
until this point.
We have Arsenal, Aston Villa at the Emirates. The big game is a London derby, West Ham, Tottenham, Liverpool, Newcastle at Anfield, and Leicester United at the King Power. So I don't know. Out of those ones, where do you want to start, and then how do you want to tackle these fixtures? And just quickly, we'll quickly touch on them. Not really go into too much detail unless the fixture calls for it.
I think the most interesting on paper is probably Liverpool Newcastle for me. Can Liverpool carry on what they did on the weekend? But I think Newcastle have the potential to hurt Liverpool, especially in the open spaces that Liverpool might leave. Especially if Sam Maximan is going to the next level. If this is his season where he goes to the next level, then he might take advantage of some of those spaces. The volley against Wolves on the weekend was something special. If you haven't seen that goal, go and check it out. Ball's absolutely dropping from the sky, hits it first time right into the corner. So he played excellently against City, as we all saw, and then now he's added a goal against Wolves. So if he keeps adding goals and assists to his game, he'll, for me, talent level, he could play for any top club, but he just needs the end product.
I'd love him at Arsenal.
Yeah, he's a excellent player, and he would
Yeah.
give you like that kind of threat, sort of like what Saka gives you on the other side, just on the left hand side, and then Martinelli maybe could play through the middle a bit more. I don't know. He's a good player, one that I saw from the Nice days and have kept a close eye on, and was happy to see that he came to the Premier League. So he's an exciting player, no doubt. But yeah, I don't know what happened to Guimaraes. I was meant to look it up, but he didn't play against Wolves, which would have been really fun to watch Guimaraes v Neves in the middle of midfield in that game. But yeah, if they don't have him for a trip to Anfield, then that's all the better for Liverpool, because he's already, in his short time in the league, he's one of the best central midfielders in the league. He's been that good since he's come to Newcastle. Joelinton still continues to surprise me. It's not even a surprise anymore. I think we got to put him in the category of a very good central midfielder by now, because he's been doing it for over half a season now, and it's just quite incredible to think of where he's come from to play this position now and play it at the level he does. So it'll be interesting to see as well, do they play Alexander Isak in this game to exploit those spaces that we expect Liverpool to leave? So yeah, this is a game. I don't know, if we don't see the right Liverpool and we see the Liverpool that we saw against United in particular, Newcastle have every chance of taking all 3 points away from Anfield. So definitely the most fascinating game on paper. But another one I'll throw out as well is United against Leicester, because that one I'm interested to see what kind of game it is. Do Leicester lull United into playing a football match where the ball's kept on the ground a lot and both teams are trying to outplay each other? Or can United impose their, I say, new style? It's 2 games in, but at least they've done it for the last 2 games. Can they just get into Leicester's faces, outwork them, outrun them, out hustle them? And I think when you do that to Leicester, they're going to crack. Or from what we've seen so far, you expect them to crack. So that's another fascinating game. And what kind of form can United take in to that game against Arsenal? Because I fully expect Arsenal to beat Villa at home. Villa, early form suggests they might be in a relegation battle this season. So yeah, and then I think they're probably the 2 most interesting games. And then it's always fun to have that sort of London derby. And West Ham Tottenham always has a bit of spice to it. So midweek under the lights, let's hope we get that again, because traditionally those games are always pretty fun as well.
Yeah, well, the other thing with the West Ham one is that they haven't exactly gotten off to the best start.
Mm.
Um, but I
Well, will
think
they be buoyed by, I think, record signing
Paqueta,
Paqueta from,
yeah,
from Lyon. So
that's another
maybe they'll be buoyed.
that's another midfielder that Arsenal was interested in. They were interested in Guimaraes, who Newcastle got, and they're interested in Paqueta. I'm not sure why they didn't get Paqueta because apparently Lyon was asking. I think West Ham signed him for what 40 mil or something like that, and
40, 45, yeah.
yeah, and like Arsenal didn't want to pay 45. Maybe they want to pay 35. It's like, well, you signed, you've let go a player that's like potentially very good, and we've seen what's happened with Guimaraes, how he's hit the ground running at Newcastle. Um, just going back to the Liverpool game, I just want to like you said like how Newcastle might approach the game. Like I think it might be similar to how United approached the game, where and like they sort of left a blueprint in how to actually come at Liverpool, but then obviously you guys didn't. It's almost like you guys didn't pretty much show up at least for the first like 20 minutes, half an hour. Whether that was more of your own volition or whether that was because United actually showed up and made you start badly. I'm not sure.
Bit of both,
Bit of both.
as always. Bit of both.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see whether Newcastle use that sort of blueprint to get at you guys. Nunez isn't back for you guys, is he? Like this is his final game
No.
being suspended.
Yeah,
So
I believe so.
yeah, I'm not sure whether he would exactly add much anyway, because it's more of a midfield issue that you guys are suffering from than anything else. And
Yeah, definitely
with
so.
Joe Ellington and Guimaraes,
Yeah.
that could be an interesting test.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why it depends on which Liverpool we get in this game.
Yeah,
Because like you say, if we did show up against United, it would have been more of a battle. But I still think Liverpool, if they show up against United, even if United are fired up, then they should be better than them. So I expect the same. If we show up against Newcastle and they want to bring the game to us, and I expect they will want to bring the game to us because Eddie Howe never really backs down from any team. He wants to take the game to every team he plays. So yeah, this one on paper definitely looks like a fun match.
yeah. Newcastle look like a fun team to watch, and especially like with Saint Maximin. Like after watching him against City as well, like he also like he obviously has that speed and trickery, but he seems to be a little bit more effective this season. And off the ball, he's working harder as well to press the defenders, which I'm really impressed with. And another reason why I believe Arteta should be looking at him. But then again, considering the deep pockets of Newcastle, is a reality that any team can really poach players from them, because Newcastle can just turn around and be like, hey, you're earning, I don't know what he's on at the moment. Maybe it's like 100,000 a week. Here's a bump up to 200 a week. Like they can just be like, yeah, here you go. We don't want to lose you. Here's a contract extension. Because he could be one for the future and could be one maybe in the next year or two that helps challenge for those Champions League spots once they build up the team a little bit more and the squad a little bit more. So yeah, they can't afford to lose him, not at the moment at least.
No, it's a really good point because I think if Newcastle are able to use their financial clout, maybe that's what they're going to use it for. Maybe they're going to try and develop what they have there through Eddie Howe, and rather than go out and spend a lot of money on new signings, maybe when these players get to a point where they're looking to go elsewhere, they spend the money on their new contracts. Can they tempt a Guimaraes to stay? Can they tempt? I don't think Joelinton will go anywhere, to be fair, but to be fair, his level has suggested he could catch the eye of some bigger clubs. And same with Sam Maximan, like you say, and who knows how well Isak will do when he comes there. I guess they did spend a lot of money on him, but so that might be an interesting ploy that they use and a way to keep players there. And the way they're playing at the moment and the feel-good factor they have, I don't know why any of those players would want to leave at this present moment anyway, because Newcastle are very much a team on the up.
Yeah, and we talked about it last season. Like, who will finish? I think at one point we asked who will finish higher this season, Arsenal or Newcastle, and then we switched it around to who will finish higher, Manchester United or Newcastle. So, yeah, I think the way that they're approaching things with like a slow and steady build, it's the right way to approach it because you obviously have the financial fair play regulations as well, and they don't want that to I guess impede their steady build, and they probably do have that 5-year outlook in regards to where they want to be.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way.
Yeah.
So,
Any of the other games you want to touch on, or is that going to be pretty much a wrap up of the preview? A nice short and sweet preview of the midweek action.
I think short and sweet is perfect for even the reviews and the previews until we start to see more storylines develop and have more to speak on. Because right now we're just speak on performances, and the table hasn't obviously taken its final shape. So we're sort of playing a waiting game, aren't we?
Yeah.
As much as we're loving watching football again, we don't know how the season's going to pan out. And there's still so long of it left with the World Cup smack bang in the middle. So we're sort of sitting here just waiting to see what we'll be talking about in a few months and then maybe 6 months from now and what the storylines will be as the season pans out. Because there'll be a few.
Yeah, I think the table will be more telling once the big teams start playing against each other. So like right now we've only had Chelsea Tottenham as the big game so far. There hasn't been really any other big game, has there? So like once we get Arsenal United, once we get Liverpool City, Tottenham City, Arsenal Liverpool, once we get those, at least the first legs of those fixtures out the way, then we'll have, I guess, a better picture of how the table might shape up. Because like the games at the moment, like you expect City to roll over Forest, the way things are going. You expect Arsenal to get a win, especially at home against Aston, and the way Aston Villa are playing at the moment, where they don't really have a settled 11. There's a little bit of, I don't know, there's rumours going on in regards to how much influence Tyrone Mings has on the dressing room, and Gerrard stripping his captaincy, and how much that is having an influence on, I guess, the morale within the entire group. So it's a very unsettled team at the moment. Team full of quality, but unsettled. So like you expect these games to go a certain direction, but then it's the big games that are going to paint the picture.
Yeah, and more of these so-called little games as well. We need to see more of them because, like you say, you expect them in a one-off, but you need to do it week after week, beat these teams that are put in front of you, and that becomes the challenge over a 38-game league season.
Yeah.
So that's what we also need to see more of as well. But yeah, no doubt when you get to see two of the top six clashed up against each other, because it's interesting because you say it might paint us a better picture, but it might also give us a false picture because, Tottenham or Chelsea battered Tottenham in footballing wise in that game and then went over to Leeds and lost 3-0. So things like that could definitely happen as well. So it's just, I think each club, you take different stock. Like a team like City, you definitely will take a lot of stock out of what they do against the top six because at the moment it doesn't look like anyone outside that top six can stop Manchester City the way they're playing. There's just too much quality.
Yeah. I want to, even though we sort of saw the Van Dijk Haaland battle. But that was pretty much Haaland's first competitive game
Yeah.
for City. I want to see that battle. I'm also interested, just based on the start. I'm also interested in Haaland v Saliba. I'm interested in that one because Saliba's hit the ground running, and like a lot of pundits have given him praise, and they've compared him to potentially being of a Van Dijk sort mold, at least early on. Obviously, it's only 4 games and preseason plus 4 games. You want to see it over a full season how he'll go. But early signs are good. You obviously want to see Haaland against the Chelsea, like Haaland against Koulibaly as well. Like these are the battles I want to see. Like, and like, I think even before the season started, I was saying that I'm very excited to see Haaland in the Premier League, and that he could be a very, very exciting signing. I also want to touch on the United Leicester game because I'm not like since Arsenal has them next, I'm not sure whether I want Leicester to beat them and then like be it similar to like a Brentford performance where Ten Hag just runs them into the ground afterwards. No, even though there's a big game coming up on the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think he can do that this time.
Or he can't do it because he doesn't have a week to recover. Or whether you want them to, or whether I want United to win either a 1-0 or 2-0 and have complacency in the way that they're playing. So I don't know whether I want them to have a loss so that there's a reaction, and considering that they're playing at Old Trafford as well, that there's a reaction similar to Liverpool, or whether I want them to win and then there be complacency. So I'm torn between the two.
I don't know. If Arsenal play their best game, I think they should win no matter which United they get, unless the footballing gods are against them. But both teams playing at their best, I take Arsenal at the moment, no doubt.
Yeah.
The other like little side note. Oh well, I'll let you go on with that point about this game because I'm going to change.
Well, I was just going to
change topic.
just going to mention Casemiro because this will be.
Yeah.
He got what? He got like 10 minutes against Southampton. So this will be another week that he's been training with United. This could potentially be his first full game for United. And then, so he'll already have a game and a bit, possibly a game and a bit under his belt before going into the Arsenal game. So, and obviously we have the injury to Partey and Zinchenko, who proved that I felt that we were sort of missing that little bit extra. You know how we talk about those 1% differences or those 0.1% differences at the elite level. El Nenny's a decent replacement for Partey, but he doesn't offer those driving runs through the midfield and those penetrating balls. He just sort of recycled the ball and played it around. And also Tierney, he likes to play as like an overlapping fullback, whereas Zinchenko, we saw a different side to the way that Arsenal plays, where Zinchenko comes into the midfield and plays an inverted fullback, and Martinelli pretty much has that whole space on the left-hand side to himself. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they're back for that game, because if they're back for that game, I expect Arsenal to. I reckon they'll dominate United, in all honesty. But if they're missing, it might be slightly more even.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Those two pieces have been huge for the way Arsenal have started, and it's no surprise that they had their hairiest test on the weekend without those two pieces. So, yeah, definitely a good point. The other thing I was interested to see as well, I believe Koulibaly should be back for this game for Chelsea because it was two yellows. Yeah, exactly. But Thiago Silva was absolutely immense on the weekend against Leicester, but he's 36, 37, whatever, how old. He might even be older than that. So I'm definitely interested to see if he's playing, and B, if he is playing, how he backs up, because my theory going into this season is he's definitely not a player you want to be relying on every 3 days. He's a player that you want to rely on in the important tests because he is still so good as he proved on the weekend. But I don't think he can be a night in, night out guy like he was in his mid-20s anymore because he's just too old for that, to be quite honest. So at least they'll have Koulibaly back, but who will he be next to? That'll be interesting to see until they get Fofana, I reckon, and then we have the whole other picture of what does Fofana look like in Chelsea's back four, back three, whatever they decide to go for.
Yeah, well, I think they have the personnel, and Fofana coming in, that he could be a very good understudy to Thiago Silva, where Thiago Silva sort of starts to take more of a coaching role, I suppose, to these younger guys.
Mentor,
yeah. So, but I still think that. Did you also? I just want to also mention that while we're on Chelsea, there's potential that Wilfred Zaha might be signing for them, or at least that Chelsea are interested in him, and because I think Zaha is on on the last year of his contract at Palace, so he either goes now or he goes on a free.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a good signing because I'm never too enamoured when the front three of Chelsea has Mount and Havertz in it, because I think they're good players in their own rights, but I would rather the balance be two players whose movement and whose speed can sort of worry a defence, and then one creative player rather than two creative and only one. And that one is Sterling, who's not lightning quick. His movement's very good if you're dominating the game. But in terms of getting in behind and stuff, he's not lightning quick, whereas Zaha gives you that option. So that could be an interesting new dimension to their attacking lineup if they do. It'll be interesting to see when we do the next pod what kind of transfer news we're talking about as well.
Yeah, I think that will be for. Well, hang on. Today's the 30th, 31st is tomorrow. So that'll be, and we'll probably do a review plus preview on Friday. So the transfer window will be closed by then. So that'll be interesting to see if any last minute deals get finalised, like you said.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. So you want to give predictions quickly, or no? You're not really the
predictions.
You're not really the prediction type.
But this is where you get your crystal ball out.
Well, what about at least for the London derby, West Ham, Tottenham, and Leicester United, since those are pretty much the two biggest games. I know you don't like giving it for Liverpool, so at least for those
not for Liverpool. That's why I draw the line.
Exactly. So at least for those two, how do you think it will go, and how do you think it'll finish?
I could maybe I'll see a 1-1 draw, or I'll give you two options: a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 win for Tottenham in the London derby, and for Leicester United, I see United winning 2-0.
I think that one's going to be a draw, to be honest. I don't think.
Like I said, it depends on what kind of game we get, because if United want to try and out football them, I don't know how much quality they have at the moment, and I think that will be Leicester's type of game. But if United want to try to outwork Leicester have shown that they buckle under that pressure recently.
Yeah. I still just can't. I still just can't see the threats necessarily in the United side. They have goals in them, but they just they don't have that. They don't necessarily have that cohesion to to create chance after chance after chance, like Liverpool, like City, like Arsenal do at the moment. They sort of just have a chance, and then there's a lull, and then there's a chance, and there's a lull. And they're half chances as well. So I can see that. I can see that one being a draw, either a 0-0 or a 1-1. West Ham, Tottenham. I can't see Tottenham losing that. So I think, like you said, either a draw or a Tottenham win. I'd be very surprised if West Ham got the win, but they're playing at home, and last year they got wins against Did they beat City at home or no? They beat Liverpool at
No,
home and they beat Chelsea.
that was that game where they went 2-0 up against City towards the end of the season. That's one
Oh
of
yeah, and then
those
yeah,
more of the last six. Yeah,
yeah, but they beat Liverpool, they beat you guys, and they beat Chelsea at
yeah,
home. So
yeah.
I'm not sure how they went against Tottenham in both their games last season, but yeah, I can see it being a draw or a Tottenham win. Yeah. Anything else to add, or is that a wrap?
I'm good with where we're at.
All right, cool. Well, Caleb, it's been a pleasure as always.
As always. Yeah.
I think the second video or video inclusive podcast pretty much went without a hitch. So hopefully things can stay that way. Big news! I'm going to be ordering a ring light, so the lighting will be a little bit better, so I won't look like Two-Face from Batman.
I will not. You just have to deal with the blue grade over here.
You're not willing to invest in the infrastructure of the pod.
Not yet.
Well,
if people want to send donations, though, if they're not happy with the product, then they can send donations.
Yeah, maybe we should set up one of those like PayPal links or whatever. A GoFundMe, GoFundMe for Caleb's setup. But yeah, look, we'll be back to preview the midweek action, and there is going to be Champions League next week, so we're going to be able to finally talk about that next week.
Yeah, preview the Champions League. Can't wait.
Yeah, so that's going to be good, and I'm hopefully going to be going to one of the games. Hopefully, because Dinamo made it into the group stage. Also, check out the. I think Dinamo played against. I think the team's called like Boda or Bode. It's a Norwegian team, if I'm not mistaken.
Bodo Glimt.
Yeah. You need to check out Petkovic's goal. The bicycle kick that he scored, absolutely amazing. And he hit it pretty clean as well, which it wasn't one of those ones where it's like came off the shin. Yeah, it wasn't a shinny. But yeah, check that out if you haven't seen that goal. Anyway,
will do.
That's pretty much a wrap for this pod. So everyone that's tuned in, thanks for coming, and bye for now.